Welcome. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps spread the word and helps make more of these videos possible. If you like this video even more, you can make a recurring donation via Patreon or a one-time donation via Ko-fi. The links are all in the description below. Enjoy the video. Hello, this is Karia and I have another video for you today. Today I will be doing a first impressions and unboxing of the Jackson's Art watercolor paints. So what I have here is, first of all, I got to thank all the fans and patrons and everybody who has been using my Jackson's Art as well as my Amazon referral links. That's how I pay for most of these art supplies, and that's how I paid for this. So people used my Jackson's Art referral links, and then I got money for it, and this is what I bought with the money from the Jackson's Art referral links. So they'll be down in the description. So this is what they are. I ordered a set of 24 half pans, and I believe the half pans are new. I think they've had the full pans for a long time, but I think the half pans are new, and I ordered a set of 24 for reasons that I do not understand and I do not actually like. They sent me a set of the 36 tin, which it looks like a nice high quality tin. I mean, it doesn't lay flat on this side, but it doesn't sort of, you know, there's a slight angle to it, but it's also not, you know, leaning down so that you'll, you know, lose your paints to the bottom or something. And it is a very well made tin, but it is also 36. And if you guys know me, you guys know that I want to utilize space, not use extra space. I believe the reason they sent you this was because maybe they thought people would get extra half pans, or they want to encourage people to get extras. Instead, I will be putting the paints in this 12 tin of Venetian art that I got. You saw this in my pre-Christmas haul, and I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to put, I believe I should fit 23 of the 24 colors in here, and I'll just have to pick one color to not include in this set. All right, so these are the 24 tins, and they come like this. I've never ever seen packaging like this in my life, where you get the tin and then you get it boxed. There's no order, there's no nothing. So so that's going to be the first part of this project, is picking out the colors, getting them in some sort of order that that works for me. I mean, I guess they figure everybody's order changes. Let me unwrap one of these, because the main thing that I want to see is I want to see if the actual tins are labeled PY3. It says Jackson's Art. Now, I saw a rumor some time ago that these are actually Sennelier paints repackaged, and I don't know if that's true, but as you guys know, I do love Sennelier. They're my favorite paints. They're what I use the most often. So so if they are Sennelier, I will be able to quickly see that and test them out. And I just want to see if the tins certainly resemble Sennelier out here. See, they're not labeled. Oh, this is going to be a task for all of them, but that will be done, I guess, off camera. So I'll be right back. All right, I am back. I have here 23 of the 24 colors that came in the set, and this is pretty much how I store my paints for pretty much all the different brands. Paints, I have been using these for a while. I went through the trouble of you can see I put a magnet on the bottom, I put a label, I made a couple of things I want to show you. Let me start with my sketch too, since I was just complaining about the tin. I really want to, if I ever like win the lottery or set up a Kickstarter or something, I really want to sort of just like redesign the whole tin. So the way that I would design mine is it would be around about the same size, but it would be big enough to hold 24. And instead of this here, this is for one that held 24 pans originally, but you know, you get the one for 12 and it's about half the size. Instead of getting this, you would get a different metal thing that wouldn't have these lifts here. Instead, it would have little dots right here, like little depressions in where the magnets would go, and the pans would be magnetized so that you could take out the little tray and still have the mixing area, because that's the biggest sort of bad thing about this is that you lose that underneath area, mixing area. So this way you would get to have the 24 pans and you would keep the mixing area at the bottom, and that would be awesome. So that's the sketch that I made with these Jackson's paint. You can see I did this a while ago. But I just wanted to take my time with these, and I really enjoyed them. I definitely see why people say that they are similar to the Sennelier, because I pretty much worked with these as if they were the Sennelier. There's a boatload of layering on here. At one point I had a different idea on how to draw the little depressions where the magnets would go, as well as the highlight for the little thing that would be on the side that you could lift off the tray. So I went in there and I did a bunch of layers, and it just worked out really well. There's no lifting, there's nothing. And I absolutely love these paints. They worked out really well. So I was really impressed by this. And in fact, I really wanted to try this business out of seeing how similar they are to the Senneliers. Don't worry about it. We'll do I have a swatching sheet here ready for us to do the swatching. So I will be swatching all 24 colors on camera in a minute, but I wanted to show you this just to show you some of the similarities. I couldn't find my Cad Red Light half pan, and I didn't feel like getting out the whole big thing and pouring a dot. So that was the issue with these, with the raw umber and the Cad Red Light, that there's an insane amount of similarity. And I'm going to stop and show you some differences. The biggest difference was in the Quin Purple, but there's an insane amount of similarity. And in fact, where there was difference, there's some differences in the pigment numbers. For example, here Jackson said that they only used a PY83 and nothing else to get this hooker's green, and I feel like that was an error on the website. There's a couple of places where that happened. See right here, they said that this is just a yellow 83. And this Viridian is a PG18. Now, where there's these, both of these, the Sennelier uses both of these, but they also use an additional pigment. That's why I put the question mark there. There's a couple where there's a different pigment. I don't know why the Cerulean, I must have skipped the Cerulean, but this is the Cerulean, and you can see that these two are different pigments, even though they look quite similar. There is a little bit of a difference, but they look quite similar. The other thing that I really want to point out is that the raw umber, the burnt umber and burnt sienna, the Sennelier ones really stand out for me because they're some of the weakest burnt umbers and burnt siennas I've tried for any professional paints when you put that first layer in. But when you do that second layer, they get much stronger. And both of the burnt sienna and the burnt umber were extremely similar to the Sennelier, not just in hue, but also in how they functioned, of just being really weak on that first lay down. But then when you layer, they both do get much more pigmented in the same way. And that to me was one of the things. Now I have all the colors for the Sennelier set, but I don't have all the colors for the Jackson's Art. So I'm not sure. This Quin Purple color, I really could not get a match for this Quin Purple color from the Sennelier. This is the Quin Purple, and I tried to match it with the Sennelier Quin Red. Obviously didn't work. And I think this is the Helios Red Blue, and I tried a different color here, and I just could not get an exact match on this particular color. And that stood out to me because I've done the review of the Kohinoor and the Blick colored pencils, and in that case they were pretty much exactly identical. There was extremely few differences outside the cosmetic packaging. And even there was a lot of similarities. In this case, it's extremely similar, but there are enough similarities. I would not be surprised if somebody who had worked for Sennelier sort of quit and then just went in and worked for Jackson's or something crazy like that. Or if Jackson's really does just hire Sennelier to make these colors, and they just tell them the hues that they want, and Sennelier just does it. And so that might explain the differences, but I understand why people might say that they're the same thing. I can't there's not enough here for me to say that they are exactly the same thing, even though I've played with them and they both do function really, really similarly. There are enough differences here that I'm not certain of that, so I can't confirm. Basically, all this is meant to say I can't confirm or deny if they're exactly the same. They do function very similarly. I found the Sennelier, some of the Sennelier colors to be just a tad bit more pigmented, but that's a very minor, sort of thing. It's not enough for me to say. It could just be the exact way the brush was or whatever. So anyway, so overall I really did enjoy using these. We're going to do the swatching after.
All right, so as I've mentioned I think a few times, and I hate mentioning this over and over again, but I do have low vision, so it's easier for me to just do the swatches instead of doing a whole painting. All right, so anyway, let's get started. So this first color is lemon yellow, and this is pretty much my go-to yellow when I'm using Sennelier, and it was my go-to yellow when I was using this set as well. This is the Cadmium Yellow Light, which is a little bit, just a faint bit warmer, and also more opaque than the lemon yellow. They both work really well. I wouldn't consider that a truly warm yellow though. This is Cadmium Yellow Orange, and it is PY35, which is also what the Cadmium Yellow Light is. And this just a good, slightly opaque orange. If you want to have an orange in your palette, I almost never have an orange in my palette, except when I'm doing florals. But anyway, this is the Cadmium Red Light, and it is PR108. This is a good sort of medium light, although I prefer the vermilion in the Sennelier set anyway, and assuming they're similar, I would probably check out the vermilion as well. Anyway, this is the Venetian Red, which I actually really like. This Venetian Red, it's you can almost put it with the earth tones if you want to put it with the earth tones. It definitely has a more opaque, almost brown tint to it, but it's really, really fun red to use to give things a little bit more oomph. And this looks like a similar hue on camera, but in real life this is much more of a red, whereas the other one was a little bit more on the faintly browner side. This is much more of a red, and this is permanent alizarin crimson. Venetian Red is PR101, and the permanent alizarin crimson is PR179. This is carmine, which is a really nice color. It's sort of a cross between red and pink. It's a little bit more on the red side than say like a Quin Rose, but I like, I think this is a great color on the set. This is the Quinacridone Purple, which is PR122. The carmine was PV19. This Quinacridone Purple is the only color in the whole set that I could not find a proper match for in the Sennelier sets. This is the permanent magenta, which is PV19. Now, normally if I'm only putting one purple in a set, I will use the dioxazine violet. However, even though this isn't as strong a tinting color as dioxazine violet and it's a slightly different hue, I actually really like this and thought that it worked really well with the set and the colors that are included. This is Ultramarine Deep, which is PB29, and the Sennelier Ultramarine Deep is my favorite ultramarine, and this one seemed to work pretty much the same. Maybe at times it felt like it was not quite as strong, but that could just be all in my head. This is Cobalt Deep, which is PB29, or that at least that's what the website says. I don't use cobalts very often, but I did use it in this set, and I found it really enjoyable. This is Cerulean Blue, and it is PB35. Cerulean was not a color that I had previously used all that much, but one of the art books that I had it showed how to use it for shadows. I still don't use it for skies, but I do use it for shadows a lot. And when I want to mix a regular gray, then I'll use ultramarine and burnt umber. But when I want to like do shadows, then I like to use cerulean. It makes a much more granulating shadows. It's a they're both granulating, but I feel like in slightly different ways. Anyway, this is the Prussian Blue, although in the past I pronounced it Persian, and I don't know how I started doing that, but I did. This is a color that's not usually in my palette because I usually have Phthalo Blue, but I really did enjoy this Prussian Blue. This is Phthalo Blue, which is PB 15.3, and the Prussian Blue was PB 27. After having both of them on the palette, they are really just different in a way. And I enjoyed having both of them in a palette. So I think in future, I will definitely be adding it to a palette. And I love blues. So I end up having way too many blues in the palette. Anyway, this is Phthalo Green Deep, which is PB 15 and PG 7. It functions pretty much like a regular phthalo green, but it is two pigments. So you make of that what you will. This is Hooker's Green. On the website, it says that this is just PY83, and for obvious reasons that doesn't make sense to me. The Sennelier uses PY83 and another pigment, so my guess is that there was a typo on the website, is going to be my guess. And the next one is Viridian, and Viridian it's never been one of my favorite colors for the low tinting strength, and for the fact that, to me at least, it feels like just a weaker phthalo green, but I am sure that there is a place for Viridian. I just need to practice more with various Viridians. As far as Viridians go, this is as strong as I've ever seen it. And it's not that strong. Anyway, the next color is sap green, which is, especially the Sennelier sap green, is one of my favorite sap greens. And this also is listed as PY83 only. And again, I feel like that has to be a typo of some sort. All right, this next one up is a raw sienna, and it's obviously PBR7. And it's quite similar in hue to the yellow ochre, but it's probably a little bit more browner than the yellow ochre. I don't really use raw sienna that much. I find myself gravitating more and more towards the yellow ochre, which is PY43, and I use yellow ochre all the time for various like natural scenes. I used it a lot when I was doing some sea turtles for the shell, mixing it with various greens. Anyway, this is the burnt sienna that we were discussing earlier, and as I said, burnt sienna is usually a lot stronger than this in the first pass. For most of my Sennelier palettes, I just switched out their interesting, shall we say, burnt sienna and burnt umber for the Daniel Smith versions, and I've been very happy with that. With doing that, since I almost never use them neat. I always mix them with something. You get those Sennelier qualities once you mix them with other Sennelier colors. Anyway, that was the burnt umber, and this is the raw umber, which I actually quite like the hue on this raw umber. All three, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and raw umber, are PBR7, and that's another reason why I like to have them on there, because then I can go crazy mixing them and I don't have to worry about pigment numbers or whatever. Anyway, this last one is Ivory Black, and it is PBK9, and Ivory Black is definitely not a vegan color. It's not made with ivory, obviously, but it is, I think, sometimes made with a bone jar. Sometimes it's called bone black, or some brands have Ivory Black and bone black too. But anyway, I didn't use black in the past, but I have lately been using a granulating black instead of the Ivory Black. But anyway, this is all of them together and they look stunning. All right, so some final thoughts on this. I will do a full review on this. There's a couple of other brands that are ahead of these in terms of getting the full review out to you guys, but I did really enjoy these paints. I found them to be, as you can see, they have a lot of pigmentation, but I think where these really sing is in the layering and how you can create a lot of depth with these paints. I know sometimes some people say, oh, you want paints to be as strong as possible because if you layer too much, they'll lift. These are not going to be lifting prematurely before you want them to lift. They do a really good job of layering on top of each other repeatedly without having any lifting issues whatsoever. So there's that. Overall, I found these to be a really good value. It was 24 paints for quite affordably. They didn't have the names printed on there, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Definitely, I don't think that you need to wait for my full review on these if you are interested in having affordable paints that are artist quality. These are definitely ones to consider, probably in the top 10 that I would say, probably in the top 5, honestly. I would say that if you're looking for affordable artist quality paints, these are ones to consider, especially if you live in the UK. Definitely consider these. The other thing is that if you do like paints that are, you know, Daniel Smith M. Graham levels of color intensity right away, these may not be the paints for you. But if you don't mind layering and creating your color intensity using layers, then these are going to be perfect for you. So I really do enjoy these paints. The only issue that I had, which is, you know, similar to my Sennelier issue, is the PBR, this 2 burnt sienna and burnt umber. Oddly, I found the raw umber to be quite okay and the raw sienna to be quite okay. Not the strongest tinting raw umber, but definitely not relatively as weak as the burnt sienna and the burnt umber. I did like the hue of the burnt umber, and the Daniel Smith burnt umber is I did like the hue of the burnt sienna, and the Daniel Smith burnt sienna is a very different hue, but it's a little bit closer to the burnt umber in hue. Anyway, overall, I definitely, you know, recommend that you check these paints out. I'm glad that they finally started selling them in the half pans, and I can't wait till they actually get real half pan packaging for the 24 color set, and they give you a 24 color tin instead of that massive tin. But you know, I really did enjoy these paints, and it was great to be able to try to do the early stages of mapping out my, you know, my plan for my dream sort of half, you know, travel palette. Anyway, thank you guys so much for staying with me. I think this video is already over 20 minutes long. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to wait for the cat video. Don't forget to be kind to one another, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.